Hey guys, so I got quite a lot of requests to make a video on how I made a lot of these assets or visuals on my Power BI sheet. So I'll start off with these page navigators here. So starting on the very left, these are super simple. They're just images. And so this in the background is just a shape. So I just inserted shape rectangle, and then I just made it into this size. This is not even a button, it's just one of the logos I was messing around with. And then these three are just images. So you would just click insert, click image, and then choose, whatever image that you want. And so it could be a PNG, which is what these are. And then once you put them in and make them the size that you want them, you just make sure that the image is selected, go all the way to the right, and then you can choose format image. And if you enable action and you choose the type to page navigation, then you can choose where the destination is. Now for this one, because this is the home page, that nothing shows up here. But if I go to this search icon here, you'll see that page navigation destination is spend analysis. So if I control click, you could see it does change to that second page, which is spend analysis. And then if I go up top here, this also works. So that's it for just these side navigator. But for this top page navigator, this is actually just a default page navigator that's included with Power BI. So just to show you how this is made, if you go to insert, button, navigator, page navigator, this is what the default page navigator looks like. And as you can see, if I were to add a page, and let's go back, you'll see that this page shows up, new page shows up here in the page navigator, as well as this top one here. Now, if I go over to the right side for the formatting and go to pages, you can actually select which ones are enabled in the page navigator. So if you have multiple sheets, you could use this option here. But for now, I'm just going to delete this extra page. I don't need that. And now I'll show you how to recreate what I've created here, this like Apple-like page navigator. So from this default page navigator here, we'll go to the format settings again. And the first things you want to do is this shape here. So what I chose for mine would just be the rounded rectangle. And then I made it all the way. I made the roundness all the way. But you could also choose pill, to be honest, and I'll just do that now just to show you. And so you can see these are pills. So it looks just like this kind of, but it's still a little off. So what we want to do is I like to just keep the backgrounds gray. And so what I'll do is go to the style in the format, and for the right now it's on selected, so that would mean this spend dashboard here. And so let's just do this one now. I do like the segue, however you pronounce it, but I like this font the most. I choose the bold for selected, and then the font color, I actually like blue, so let's just do, I don't know, 008 DF. And then I want the background to not be black. I want it to be white, so that would be fill. And so I can choose white here. And then I can disable the borders because I don't really like the look of borders for these buttons here. And that should be it for the selected. Now, if we go here back to the applied settings too, within style, we can choose default, where I can choose a gray color for the text. So let's say I want a darker gray for the text. And then for the background is fill. I want it to be that light gray, so I choose DDDDD. Yep. And then so next up, you can see there are still some differences. So there is a background here, and Power BI settings are a little bit weird. So these are going to be found in general, and under effects, you'll have this background. If you enable it, you can see the background is selected as white. So I want it to be the same gray, so DDDDD. And now you can see it's starting to look a bit more like this pill here, but the background needs to also be a pill shape. So if you go back to general, it should be under effects. And if we enable the visual border, the border appears on the background, and then we can take the roundness all the way up and then choose the same background color. So it doesn't really have that little, border highlight. And now you can see it's a lot closer to this original that I have here, but some of the padding is off. And so if you ever can't find an option, you could always just type in this format section and type padding and you'll get the options here, but it's found in general, properties, and padding. And now it looks like there's 0 padding here according to the format navigator, but if you just refresh it real quick, you'll see that it's just a weird Power BI glitch. So let's go back to to the format settings, go back to the padding, and I like to do 5 5 just to try it. 5 5 5 5 5 5 5 5 5. And so now everything's set to 5, but as you can see, Power BI is a little bit weird. So you could see that the top and bottom padding is not really matching. So sometimes you do have to go back and just fiddle around with it and just, see what exactly you like, what settings you like. Maybe you want less padding on the sides. Maybe you want more, but sometimes it's slightly not even though the number values are the same. But you can mess around and just make it eyeball that. If you want. So now you can see that's how mine looks. And there are plenty of other visual options here. You could choose all these other options. I just personally chose the pill for mine. But yeah, that's it for page navigators. All right, so next up is custom icons. I got quite a lot of requests from people asking me how I put these custom credit card images into my Power BI here. And as you can see, I did remove one of them, so the Chase Sapphire Preferred, and I'll run you through how I put that in here in a second here. But basically, I followed a video by How to Power BI, and I'll link that down in the description. But he goes over some more details as well as more ways you can customize these custom icons here. But there is one little detail he forgot to mention, which I'll show you in a second here. Now, what you're going to need is Visual Studio Code as well as PowerPoint. And so here, let's open up a PowerPoint. And this is one that I've already created, but for you, you might have a completely new PowerPoint. And what I first did was just go to the slide size, right? And you could search it if it doesn't appear here. So slide size, and then custom. And I found that anything over 3.3, sometimes when you try to load that image into Power BI later on, you're going to maybe run into some issues. So I found 3.3 to be the biggest that it could be. Technically, you're not really ever going to need it to be this big because, as you can see, you can't really see the details anyway. But anyway, I set mine to 3.3 first, and then you can just create a new slide and paste whatever image you want to be your custom icon. Now, I've already pasted my image here, so this is what I'm going to do. All you have to do is, once you're done with all of your icons, you go to save as. Now, mine says save a copy because my PowerPoint is saved to OneDrive, but yours probably, if yours is on local, it'll save as. So you save as, and you make that file into a SVG file, and you can name it to whatever you want. And when you click save, it'll give you the option to whether you want to save all of the ones, all the slides in the PowerPoint, or just the ones that you've selected. Now, I already have the files created, so I don't really need to do that, but that's all you have to do. And then you can click close. And as you can see, I've got all of this here. So this Chase Sapphire Preferred, what I'm going to do with this SVG image is I'm going to go to Visual Studio Code, and I've got a theme JSON file here open, and I'll show you. If you don't have a file, a JSON file for the theme, you can go to a view, then open this little drop down, and you'll see save current theme, and then it'll say you can save wherever that JSON file is. And then once you open that JSON file in Visual Studio Code, it'll most likely just look like this, just this top section here. And all you have to do is add to the bottom just these icons, and then you can add however many you want. And so if you see here icons, this is my Bank of America customized cash, and if you scroll a little bit further down, you'll see that I've got more cards and so on and so forth. And again, you can follow that How to Power BI video. He goes a little slower and goes over some more details, but basically I'm going to take this new image, Chase Sapphire Preferred. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to open it up in in Visual Studio, and you can see this is all just text, and maybe your text is all just in one line. All you have to do is just click view, word wrap, and then you'll see it all appear here. Now, if you Control H, you can find and replace, and you want to replace all of the double quotes because we're going to need double quote. As you can see here, we do need double quote on that original sheet there. So we're going to replace all the double quotes with single. And then if you click this button here or Control Alt Enter, as you can see, it'll replace all. And then you also want to replace all hashtags with %23. And you can see it shows it all here, and you click replace all. And sometimes, you know, the number of hashtags or the number of double quotes might be different depending on the image. But after that, that's done for this section. You just copy all. And you go all the way to the very bottom here, and you're gonna have to create a new section here. So I'll do it manually, but you could just copy paste for if it's easier for you. But you do need to make sure you've got a comma here, and then let's call this Chase CSP, and then you just copy that same formatting that you see above. And I'll include this in the description as well, so you can download the template. And now, this is the one step that How to Power BI was not super clear on, but for description, you do need to make sure that this is lowercase, same as this first word. Everything must be lowercase. So this same as this icon word here, these icons, this word has to be lowercase. If you go all the way down here, you can see description, it must be lowercase. And so you just, again, copy that format, and you can name this description and this name to whatever you want, but right now I've just got the CSP, and then we've got another comma here, comma here, and this is where we can paste in that URL that we just copied from this image earlier. So we first want to type double quotes and then paste in whatever we just copied. And one last thing is you just want to type this beginning text. So I'll type it manually, but you can always just copy paste. So data :image / svg plus xml semicolon utf8 comma, and then I like to add a little space there, and that's it. And that's all you have to do. And make sure that there's no, you know, comma here at the end if you did copy paste these formats here, because this is the very last icon. But if you were to add more, then, you know, you'd have to type, you know, whatever it is you want. But this is the last icon, so I'm going to delete any comma here. You click save, and then you can close out of this. You don't have to save this if you don't want to, but you do need to save that original JSON file. Obviously, that's the theme file. And so now if we go back to Power BI, if we open this drop down again, you can select browse for themes, and this is the one that I called that I just edited. It's just the template one, and double click, and you can see file added successfully. If you've got any errors when importing, it probably means there was some little typo or something wrong. You just want to go back and double check that, you know, your formatting was correct, that you've got, you know, no extra commas or maybe even missing commas anywhere. And so now you can see here the CSP logo does show up now, and this works with any image. You could create icon. You can get, you know, icons like these and import them into the custom icon site, custom theme, and you can import that into here, and you can add icons to categories if you really wanted to. One last thing about these icons is if you don't see them appearing in your visual, or you're creating a dashboard from scratch, make sure that you do go into the visual, and then you choose the column that you want it to appear in, and then choose conditional formatting icons. And then here you can pause if you want to copy my settings, but basically just make sure that you actually do have a rule set for that particular card or whatever use case that you're using this for. It could be categories, cards, whatever. And then one other thing, you'll also notice that some of these icons are fully white or fully black. And so if I go in here, you'll notice that the actual image themselves don't appear here in these icon choices, but once you do choose them, it will appear normally in the visual itself. But then, so just do make sure and be careful, because sometimes you might upload the theme icon and then maybe you'll say, oh, I don't see any themes, or I don't see any of my custom theme icons. They might just be fully white, and if you just hover over it, you will see that it actually is there, and so you can select it then. But yeah, that's it for custom icons. All right, so now I'm going to show you how I created this hidden filter here. So as you can see, if I click this filter, all of my slicers appear, and I can make any adjustments I want, apply, and the background gets applied. And if I close this, you can see the background still stays the same. And if I open it up, I can do any more changes or clear slicers, for example. And if I close it again, everything still stays the same. And so the first thing you want to do is create all of the slicers that you want. And for what I mean by that is this view right here. And so what I chose to do was just create a rectangle shape, as you can see, with rounded corners. And then I put all of the slicers on top of that in this shape. And you can create it and format it however you want. And then these two are just, insert button, apply slicers, and clear all slicers, these two buttons right there. And so after you create this view, this panel, and put all the slicers into the positions that you want them to be in, group them all up. And so in order to do that, you can just select every single one and then Control G, or if you go to View, Bookmarks, and also Selection, you'll see these two views. You can actually select all of the slicers or buttons that you want to be in a little panel, and then Control G from here. And so as you can see, I've got everything in this group that I called slicer group. So what I'm going to do right now is just copy this. And on this second page here, I've actually created copies of these buttons with no actions on them. So you can see these are fresh, 2 new buttons with no actions attached. And I'm just going to paste the group of slicers into this page here. And now what you've got are 3 components: a slicer group, as well as 2 separate buttons. And now what we're going to do is create 2 separate bookmarks for this one page. And the first one, we'll call it Slicers Open. And the second, we'll call it Slicers Closed. And so what we want to do is make sure the right things are visible for the right bookmarks. And so what I mean by this is, let's say, for example, this bookmark means the slicers should not be visible. And so what I want to do is go to the group here, this group of slicers, and hide this visual. And the other thing that should be hidden is also this close button. So I'll hide that visual as well. And so now the slicers are closed. And what I want to do is update this visual here. And that's it for that. And now we're going to show these visuals again. And the other thing we haven't updated yet is this slicers open. And so when the slicers are open, I actually want this button to be invisible. So I'm going to go over to the selection screen again and hide this visual, and now update this slicers open bookmark. And so now what you've got are 2 bookmarks, one where the slicers are open and you can see the close button as well as the slicers, and then this slicer closed bookmark, you can see only the filter button and you cannot see the slicers or the X bookmark. And so what we want to do is go back and show the visuals for both of these buttons. And these buttons have not yet been assigned, so we want to go over to the format button, enable action, and for this filter we want to go to open. We want it to open. And then for this one, we want it to be closed. So go to action, select bookmark, and then closed. And so now if I click this button, you'll see the slicer appears. And then if I click this button, it goes away. And so what I've done in my pages is basically just line up the 2 buttons on top of each other. And that's it. That's how you create the hidden slicer panel.